Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. We are so very happy to have you with us today. It is interview day, and I get excited every single time, and it's never going to stop. So get ready, everybody. What's even better, I think, about this interview is this is a friend of the show, and we love talking to her. We tend to go long on these ones, but we'll try to hold ourselves together today. Before I introduce our guest, let me say hello to Tova, my fantastical co-host. And also note that for us as recording, it is the day after Halloween. And I'm tired. I'm just very tired today. So, but before we dive into our topic, how are you, Tova? What's your day after Halloween like?
Well, I have to say, I just had some boys a couple minutes ago, like right before we started recording, knock on my window and they were like, trick or treat. Now, I will say they're high schoolers and they often sit on my porch because they're friends with the kid who's upstairs.
Sure.
Is a high schooler. Now, he never is with them when they're here. I think they're just like, we're like a close house to the high school and they can come home for lunch.
Right.
And they didn't think that I was going to give them candy. I think they thought they were joking. And I was like, seriously, do you want some candy? Because I had a whole bowl. I didn't put the light on when we left. So I just put a bowl out, but it was daytime. So I forgot to put the light on. So nobody took any candy from us. And they were like, really? And I was like, please. And they were very excited. And I think I made like buddies now with the high schoolers, random boys.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling, good there. But what I love this like days like this where we're recording the day after Halloween, and we selected this amazing guest, Bunmi, to join us because you're listening to this, I hope, as you're traveling, either to see family the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I just love how there's these moments where the seasons are so different, like we're just going to be in a kind of the same space but kind of a different space just 3 weeks from now, but it's only 3 weeks from now. It's just wild. And it's
the longest season of the year, except that it's actually the same amount of time. But the season of the year, like all from October 1st through January, is just like go, let's go, woo.
Well, and like so I'm looking on my counter in my kitchen and the dinosaurs are back. So we do Dino-November in our house. Yep. And so like I got these plastic dinosaurs hanging out on my kitchen counter, and I love that. It's just weird. I don't know why we do it, but it's super fun. So I'm excited. Before we say hi to Bunmi, which we're going to do momentarily, I do want to go through for anyone who's new to the show, but also because Bunmi, your bio changes every time we've had you on here.
Yeah, that's true.
And
it's a good thing.
Yes, it is. It grows. It grows. I feel like it gets more aligned with who you are every moment. So I want to read it again. Joining us is Bunmi Emenanjo, and you are a lawyer, entrepreneur, writer, and public speaker. Bunmi was born in the United States and raised in Nigeria. She was exposed at a young age to globally diverse stories from the works of, and Bunmi, I'm going to ask you to help me say both of these authors' names. It is Chinua Achebe, but maybe that's
Chinua Achebe.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And what is the next one?
Probably Wole Soyinka.
You got it.
Yes.
You got it. And then to Shakespeare and Arabian Nights. And I do know how to say all three of those words. So Bunmi's childhood and culture inspire her writing and her work as a curator of children's books. An avid reader and culture seeker, Bunmi believes a curious mind, a fearless pursuit of purpose, and an active practice of giving and gratitude are key to wholehearted living. In 2019, she founded Atlas Book Club, which, by the way, if you're looking for a good holiday gift this holiday season, Atlas Book Club is a great place to check out. It is a company focused on globally diverse children's books that help all kids see themselves represented in the books that they read and to travel the world through these books. While Bunmi has had a vast, vast legal career, from working in the private sector to the White House under the Biden administration, writing is her passion, and we are all luckier for it. When she is not practicing law or working on Atlas Book Club, Bunmi is baking, traveling, and writing stories that fill the heart and move the spirit. Bunmi lives in Maryland with her husband, her 3 children, and a devoted Black Russian Terrier named Shadow. Her first picture book, I'll See You in, I don't know how to say that word, Achebe, which I will learn because you can already pre-order it right now. Not when we're recording, but by the time you're listening, you can reorder it.
Yeah.
I'll See You in Achebe, which is published by Barefoot Books and will be out in March of 2024. So this is, I think, your 3rd time joining us on the show.
Mhm.
And every time the bio is
Yeah.
more exciting. So
Wow, I thought it was the 2nd time. It is the 3rd
it's the
time.
It is the 3rd time.
Wow. Okay.
So thank you for joining us. How are you?
Of course. No, I am good. I'm good. I'm excited every time there's an update or just something about this book journey comes up. It just fills my heart with like gratitude and just excitement, so I'm good in this very moment. I am really good.
Fantastic. We're very excited for you. We're very excited about the book coming out. And I think, I want to dive into our topic, which is all
Yes.
about how is your heart this season, which I think you kind of just answered. But I want to make sure our listeners and especially longtime listeners recognize that you're on a journey of transformation, right? And like you have, and you're kind of doing it publicly, like whether you intend to or not. And so from the first time we had you on the show to now, like Tova was saying, your bio has changed, your the way you speak about yourself has changed, the way you are, I think, in my very humble opinion, the way your outlook at the world seems to have changed quite a bit. And so let's dive a little more into this question of how is your heart, and what does it mean to you for somebody to ask you how is your heart?
It means, like, I think every time I come on the show, I get emotional and I can already feel it coming. This is probably one of my favorite questions. And I didn't even realize I would love it so much until I read the notes that you sent me, asking, letting me know what the topic was going to be. Because I have been intentionally in this space where I am caring for my heart. And, my physical heart, yes, but just my heart has in the space that holds my emotions and the space that holds my feelings. And I've been very intentional about just that in the past few years. And so when you ask me this question, I want to think back to just an epiphany that I had like 3 days ago or 4 days ago. So I started, you may know that, yoga is a huge part of my life, is part of my wellness practice, and as is normal for us humans and busy people, we, divert from the things that we know serve us well. If I did yoga every day, I would be good, right? But you get busy, this happens, and you don't necessarily stay consistent with the things that feed you. And so I saw on my face, and this is a long story, but I'm getting there. I saw on my Facebook memories a few weeks ago something I had posted about yoga and how I came back to yoga. This was like 2 years ago. And I was like, holy smokes, like that's what's missing. I kind of need to go back to that practice. So it was a reminder for me. And then, I got back into my daily practice. And last week, as I was sitting there just reflecting after my yoga practice, shit, I'm gonna cry. Okay, as I was sitting there reflecting about my yoga practice, it hit me that, and I wake up early and I do my yoga practice like 5:30, 6 a.m. And it hit me that my yoga practice is my daily reminder to be gentle with myself. Like, and it's my daily like reminder as I start my day to just be gentle with myself, with my body, with my heart, with my spirit, and just enter my day with softness and intentionality, right? And so when you ask me, how is my heart? I think my response to that is my heart feels tendered to, right? It feels safe because I'm intentional now in this season of my life of really, really caring for it and tendering to it. That's the only way I can describe it. And so, just that question, what does that mean to me is, how are you taking care of that space within your soul, within your body, where your feelings land, right? Like, whether you're angry or sad, or frustrated or happy, or like that, all that energy, those feelings coming to your body, they come into your spirit. But what do they meet when they get there? What do they meet where they land? And are you taking care of that space that's going to hold those feelings no matter what they are? How are you caring for that space? Anyway, so that's what that means to me. And I love this topic so freaking much because I just love it. I don't know if you can tell. Like, I just love it because that mentally is kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after we introduced the season and we had our first episode, the next two episodes were about the sort of combination of how is your heart means to you physically and mentally. And so we talked a lot about the intersection of the two. And I just love how we spent, 2 hours combined between the two episodes talking about studies and talking about these different things that really show and establish how important that interaction is between the heart, the physical pumping thing that pumps the blood, and then the heart, the holder of your feelings, and how you just basically did it in 3 minutes. And you basically were, but you didn't talk about yoga as your exercise. You talked about it as your wellness practice, right? And you talk about it as, it's something that you physically need to do to serve the spiritual side of you. And I want to highlight that because I think, even as I was sitting here and I'm listening and I'm going, oh man, I should do more yoga. I know I need to stretch more. And then I had to remind myself, like, I walk every single day.
Yeah.
And I feel off when I don't walk. And just because you do yoga, and I do really need to stretch more and I do want to do yoga, but yoga can be an enhancement to my walking. Just as like maybe walking is an enhancement to yoga for you. Like we don't have to have the same thing. And that's okay. And I think it's so hard sometimes in this world to like, I'm just saying this out loud to remind myself and to remind anyone else who's listening that it doesn't have to be the same thing. Right. But so as I was listening and I was thinking about, who we spoke to a couple of years ago, because you were one of our first guests, and then who we spoke to, I don't know, a year and a half ago or something. It was over the summer is all I recall. And I'm thinking about all these big decisions you've made because you've changed jobs in your law career path, and you've made all of these decisions in relating to the book that's coming out. How do you make decisions? How do you make, when you're being intentional with these decisions, whether they are big decisions or even smaller ones. Cause we're friends on social media. So I see that, you have doctor's appointments on Saturday mornings at 7:30 in the morning, cause that's how that has to work. And I'm like, that seems like very early in the morning. But is it your head? Is it your heart? Is it a combination of the two? Do you even differentiate between the two? Like how do you make decisions in your life, especially during this time where it feels like there's a lot of very exciting decisions to be made?
Yeah. Hmm. It depends.
Lawyer
Lawyering
answer.
Yeah, such a lawyer answer.
It depends. It does, right? So there are certain decisions, like so for example, I'll cite this one, the decision to apply for the White House job, right? That was one where I was very, very nervous about how it would impact, my home life. I was nervous about like, how rigorous is it going to be? How intense is it going to? I was, in that space. And while also looking at, how good it would be for my career, right? And my very, very dear friend, Kristen Foreman Simmons, she's amazing. And we had a conversation while I was kind of contemplating, because I had a strong feeling that I would get the job if I applied. Not trying to, to be, saying, oh, I'm awesome, but just because of the way my experience lined up with the resume. It was like somebody took my resume and made a copy of it and made a post it. So I was like, if I apply, I may get this, so we need to be prepared, but my friend Christine asked me when I was contemplating, she said, and it was so profound, and I've held on to it then. She said, it sounds like all the things I was listing has what was going to be challenging about this job that I haven't even gotten it sounded like it was coming from a place of fear, right? And she's like, what if you considered the possibilities? So instead of thinking about things and making decisions from a place of fear, what if you made it from a place of possibilities? And I was just like, that was so profound, because for me, one thing I also try to do is make a decision. And by try to do, I mean, it's an ongoing journey, I'm not completely there yet, is make a decision out of abundance, not scarcity. And so that fit very nicely. Like, yeah, like make decisions out of possibility, not fear, right? And so that's one thing that I have in the past few years adopted, right? But the other way that I make decisions is let me add this caveat, because I never want people to go like, oh, how come I can't do that? I want to add this, my history. It's been on my own since I was 16, and I've had to make a lot of life-changing decisions at a very, very young age without parental input, because my parents were so far away. They were in Nigeria, and there was no cell phone that you could just pick up and call your parents.
Right.
So I've been exercising this muscle for almost 30 years, And so some decisions that come easy to me is because of that practice, right? So I do want to add that, just so people have that context. But I also have a very strong belief and faith in God. I have, I'm a Christian, and I have a spiritual relationship with God, where I also rely on that gut feeling and that instinct that if God has put this idea or this story on my heart, he does it because he has faith in me that I can see it through, right? And so I also operate from that and go, okay, well, here we go. I'll do my part. And with the knowledge that if it doesn't work out, there's so much I can learn in the journey and the process. Right. And so that's another. So, which is why I say it depends. There are many layers to it. There's that operating from a space of, abundance and possibilities, but then also relying on my faith. And then lastly, can I curse on here? I can't curse on here. Can I? No, I can't. All right.
I mean, technically you can.
Yeah. The last, and I was talking to a friend about it, is my fit attitude, right? Like, what's the worst I literally go and look at myself, I'm like, fit, just do it. Because, when you get to a point and you have to make a decision and you weigh the pros and the cons, sometimes we get paralyzed in this, like, oh, but this, but that, and you just need to move. You just need to, like, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I just go like, okay, done. And sometimes I don't even have a reason why this choice is better than that choice. I just go like, oh, like, okay, we've analyzed it to death ad nauseum. I just pick one and I just act and have the faith that at the end of the day, everything's gonna be okay. Like, you're going to be okay. Unless, of course, it's like something like really,
life or death, right?
But
yeah,
you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to pull the trigger and do the thing.
Yeah, so I think it's fascinating to look back across, the decades of my life and think about, had I had the mental fortitude at 20 to say, what's the worst that could happen? Just do it. That I have now, life would be very different. And like, yes, of course, I'm happy with my life. I'm, all the good things, right? But when I look back and think about how could I have given myself more opportunity, and it's really a lot of the things that you're talking about, not making decisions from a place of fear, making decisions from a place of abundance, and then also just realizing that, like, at the end of the day, most decisions, like you said, like, what is the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get fired, or you're going to have to find a new job, or you're going to fail at something, and then you'll try something else. So I think it's really interesting from an age perspective as well to look at our lives and then share that information. Like, did people say that to me when I was in my 20s? Probably. And I was probably like, yeah, whatever. But like, if we can pass that down to particularly young women and have them hear us, right? And have them actually absorb that and go, okay, I feel that, I can understand that, and move forward in that direction. I think that would be amazing. We need to take a quick break, but I want to, when we come back, I have a future looking question for you. So we'll be right back, everyone. Hey, Tova, you know what I love?
Coffee, definitions, uninterrupted reading time.
Okay, all of those things are true, but I also love maps.
As in Siri, take me to the beach?
Yeah. Also, as in, who am I really and who do I want to be?
Yeah, I figured that's what you meant, but I also have the beach on my mind, so...
Well, we were talking about things we love, so that definitely makes sense. But the map I was thinking about is our Defining You course.
Yes! We put together Defining You as a way to map where you are and how you want to live your life.
So true. So many people struggle to find their purpose in a busy and noisy world.
That's why we made Defining You, our course meant to guide you to creating your own mission statement.
And there's good news. You can get it now on teachable.com. Find the link on our website at goboldlyinitiative.com/courses, or check out the link on our Instagram bio at Go Boldly Together.
We can't wait to see you there. Now, let's head back to the show.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were sort of looking backwards, right, at how we make decisions. And now I want you to talk to us a little bit about something that Tova and I have been talking about. And that is, rather than focusing on what we want to achieve in the next 10 years or what things we want to have or any of that stuff. We're wondering if you could figure out like how do you want to feel in the next 10 years? Like what overarching feeling are you hoping exists in your life?
Freedom, free. That's I think when I turned 40, and that's when it hit me that my purpose, my goal is, and the journey I'm on is a pursuit of freedom, right? And freedom from anything, and by anything I mean literally anything, feelings, tangible and intangible, that may prevent me from living my highest purpose, right? And so that's freedom for, from like bitterness, resentment in relationships, regret, on a physical level, freedom from fear. I actually have it written on a Post-it on my vanity, my mirror in my bathroom, because I want to be reminded every day. Freedom from, fear of like illness, chronic illness that is preventable, or, which is a reminder that I do my own part, by exercise and eating right, which, it's constant like struggle, let's be real.
We do our best. We do our best.
We do our best, but yeah, when I look at the future, I want to be free, financial freedom, right? So I can do the work that really, really matters to me, and just freedom. And also, I mean, when I think about the future, I think about doing work in Nigeria, and doing work in the literary world, publishing books where kids in Nigeria can see themselves represented, doing work towards there are some amazing companies doing literacy programs, in Nigeria and other parts of Africa doing that, and just doing work where I can help the impact people from whom I come from. Right. And so, yeah. So when I look forward and now what that looks like, that can look like anything. I could still be doing, my work and working where I am and do that, or I can be doing it, independently. Like I have no box or framework what that looks like specifically, but I know that that's my prayer. And so however God wants to shape that and how he wants that executed in the future, then I just have to remind myself to remain open to that. But yeah, that was easy answer for me, and it's freedom. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I love thinking about it that way is that it takes away some of that pressure of specific outcomes, right? Like,
Yes.
how do I want to feel could be created by any number of efforts on my part. And it's not, I'm not required to do any specific thing to get there. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a more expansive way of looking at our potential and where we see ourselves in the future. So it's one of the reasons I like it. And I think it combines nicely with how is your heart? Because really, how is your heart today? And how do you want your heart to be in 10 years from now? Right. And like, how are you getting there? It doesn't have to be no two paths are going to look the same, right? No one's path is going to be your path or my path or Tova's path. And I think that is liberating in a lot of ways I hope for people listening.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I completely agree. And that's, I think when we kind of free, pun intended, ourselves from, some definitions and holds that society has on us, that just allows your mind to dream bigger and freer. Like you deserve a life that serves you. And it is very limiting to think that the life that serves you has been or is defined by a society that may not even know you, right? And so why would you want to limit this one life that you have? Why would you want that to be limited by rules created by people who don't even know you, right? And so just I think just breaking, and it's hard because we're being programmed this way. And you know, I think the other thing is recognizing that all of this is a journey. And so just because you haven't broken free of that completely today doesn't mean you haven't done anything.
Yep.
You know, I think, we live in a society where, it tends to be binary where, oh, I have broken free or I have not broken free, right? And it's like, embracing the journey of breaking free, right? And recognizing that there's value in whatever work that you've done to this point in searching or journeying to search and know more about yourself so that you can ultimately be free from those societal definitions. So I think that's where the whole gentleness and compassion and grace for yourself comes in, and recognizing that, just small incremental efforts to know yourself a little bit more is progress.
Yeah. And taking time to celebrate that, I think
And celebrate
is
that.
huge.
Yeah.
I think it's also really important, and we've talked to some other people about this in, on this topic, is that especially a lot of people, women especially, and then women who are lawyers and women who are like us, we like there to be very clear defined goals.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's a societal thing, but it's also just like, we like to know, did we get an A? Like, did we do the good job?
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at 10 years from now, and, I actually just sent you this link the other day, Riley, of things you can declutter. And, some of the things were like pictures on your phone, condiments you don't use, right? Like specific physical things. And then one of the things was things on your like goals list that no longer serve you.
I like that.
Right. Things where you're like, I used to want to achieve this, and it's still sitting there and it's still kind of weighing on you as like, why haven't I done this? Well, I haven't done it because I don't want to do it. And so I think by saying my goal is this feeling, which by the way, could change as time goes on, but also I think the likelihood of it changing is less than a specific goal. That feeling of freedom. And you're saying, to God or the universe or whatever somebody wants to call it, like, I will follow your lead here, and you can dream bigger than I can. I can dream pretty big, but you can dream even bigger. So, you'll help me get there. But I think that's really important, because I think in some ways people use goals to, yes, motivate ourselves, but goals are also used to shame us and make us feel guilty. I mean, we do that to ourselves. Goals can be used to hold us back if the goals aren't far enough, to what they could be. And so I love this idea of thinking of it as a feeling, right? And it does give you that space for celebration every step of the way, literally every day, where you can say like, how is my heart when I'm waking up in this morning? How is my heart? And I know that, you are working towards writing goals, even though you've achieved this first one, although there were probably like 300 smaller ones along the way. But, and when the goals are very hard and difficult to achieve, it's really important that we have these smaller ones, and it's a feeling like, yes, even when the days are rough, I'm still working towards something, and I'm still waking up and I'm feeling like I'm filling my heart, or, the way that I want. So I want to sort of highlight so much of what you're saying, because I think it is so important that we do approach it this way. And I do think you're right that society has really conditioned us to think of things in a different way. And it's not necessarily healthy or good for us. There was
Mhm.
not a question there. That was just a very long statement.
No, I love the point that you're making about how we um like to have goals and lists and those things. And I'm a list girl,
Mm,
right? So, and I want to be careful that we're clear, or be careful that I'm clear that I'm not saying, you know, chase this arbitrary thing called a feeling, right?
mhm.
You know, because getting that feeling of freedom, getting there takes discipline.
Yes.
It takes a lot of discipline. It takes hard work. It takes recognizing that in order to, for me personally, have this, how do I want to feel in the future? I want to be free. I want to be, financially free, emotionally like free of that. Well, that takes work. Like in order to get emotionally free, gotta be in therapy, right?
Yes.
You have to go to therapy. In order to get to therapy, you got to call and make right? So you have to do this physical, tactical things to get to that feeling, right? And so it's recognizing that, yes, you have this goal that's bigger, in a sense, a way to describe it is kind of bigger than yourself, but it does take discipline. It does take, sacrifice. It
Yeah.
does take all these things that you do have to check off to get there. So if
Well,
that makes sense.
and I
It
mean, listen,
does.
I love a checklist, and I feel like sometimes I'll
Yeah,
tell, like, if
I
I'm
have so
not,
many.
if I
Yeah.
don't put enough down on my planner, if I'm not like writing enough and in the lists enough, I'll tell Riley, I feel floaty. Like I just
Yeah.
feel like I don't know, I'm
Yeah.
not grounded. They help ground me. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
relied on them less as a coping mechanism than I did before the pandemic, because the list got a lot shorter right during the pandemic. And I realized I needed other healthy coping mechanisms, not just making lists
Yeah.
of things to do. But I
Yeah.
think what you're saying is really important. And what you said though before is also like, I think, well, you can say, okay, this is the feeling I want in 10 years. And this is the way I think I'm going to achieve it. And
Right.
so here are all the things my goals. But at the same time, I am leaving space for something else to happen. And if I need to say that that no longer is a goal of mine because I've gone in this direction, or if I need to say that goal was too small because the universe has shown me or God has shown me that my goal needs to be bigger, I'm leaving space for more. So I'm still going to, bust my butt and get up early in the morning and work really hard, like we watch you do, to reach my goals. But I'm also going to leave space, because my goal in 10 years isn't to check these 5 things off the list. My goal in 10 years is for this feeling. I happen to
Mhm.
think that checking these things off the list will get me that feeling.
Mhm.
Right.
But if God tells me that there's a different path, I'm open to that path.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
I think the thing to remember for anyone listening is that feelings tend to require action, right? Like if you want to feel something specific, um, action is required. It's like, like everyone says, love is a verb. Like you have to actually put some work into these things. But as you were saying, Tova, it keeping it as expansive as possible allows
Mhm.
you the opportunity to have all kinds of experiences that will get you to that feeling. Now, if you just sit in your room all day and eat, tater tots and don't talk to anyone and don't do anything, then I'm not saying I've been there, but had I ever been there, it's not going to get me to the feeling I want to get to. You have to, you have to do things. You have to get out in the world and try stuff and be open to experiences.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I
Go
just
ahead.
really fast, just because I had this thought pop in my head. James Clear, who is the author of
Mhm.
Atomic Habits, right? And he
Mhm.
talks about at some point, like, not setting habits just because these are the habits. You want to be a professional baseball player, and so you do X, Y, and Z. But what you want to do is you want to, what are the things that a professional baseball player does? And those are the habits you're going to do. Like, it's not like I'm going to go practice 10 minutes every day doing X, hitting, and then I'm going to practice 10 minutes doing that. No, I'm going to act like a professional baseball player, or like a person who became a professional baseball player.
Right.
And what I think that does is it gives you the I can't say this word, elasticity, the flexibility. Let's do that. Flexibility. I can say that one. To change and evolve, because I think if someone says that we can, I'm going to be an author and this is how I'm going to do it. And then in the middle of that, it turns out, oh, by the way, you need to increase your social media following. You need first you need a social media following.
Right.
Then you need to increase it. Then you need to do this. And you're like, no. I want to be an author from 20 years ago before you needed any of those things. And so by, approaching things in a different way of like, I'm going to do the things that a best-selling author does. And it's like, well, now what that means is I'm going to have an Instagram account, and I'm going to foster an Instagram following, and I'm going to, and I think that leaves the space for the hard work, but it allows the hard work to change as it needs to change and evolve. And I think for whatever reason, one of our questions is about balance and harmony. And we can ask this question when we come back from break, but for whatever reason, this just is resonating me. I know we think about balance and harmony in a different way, but I think that in this conversation too, there's a place for like, where balance is, not falling off the balance beam, and harmony is kind of figuring out how it all works together. This is, to me, how that also can be seen in the same way.
Yeah.
Should we take
let's take
break?
Let's take a quick break, and we'll get more into that when we get right back.
Tova here. I'll admit, when I think of a coach, I immediately think knee-high socks, whistles, and clipboards. Is it because I love Ted Lasso?
Maybe. I mean, I think it's a good look for you, if I'm being honest.
Thanks, I think. Anyway, that's not the kind of coaching we want to talk to you all about.
True. We are talking about life and transition coaching, though I do still love a clipboard and a tube sock.
Both Riley and I are lucky to have worked with incredible coaches throughout our lives.
Before that, though, we struggled with where to start, believing in what coaching could really do for us, and, of course, putting ourselves first.
Taking the leap and working with our coaches made all the difference. They gave us direction and support when we needed it most.
Now, we are fortunate enough to be coaches ourselves, and we're excited to pay it forward.
We can help you figure out where to start, create a roadmap, keep you accountable, and get to living your limitless life.
Sounds pretty great. So if you want to figure out your next steps, check out our services at goboldlyinitiative.com/services.
We can't wait to talk to you. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back from the break, everyone. Before the break, Tova, you were talking about balance versus harmony and how that kind of comes into play in our lives. And Bunmi, we wanted to ask you to talk to us a little bit about, what you feel is resonating in your life right now. How do you think balance versus harmony comes into play? And how are you sort of navigating all that with all of the things you have on your plate at this point?
Yeah, I think definitely harmony resonates more so than balance. I think balance creates this pressure that if you don't keep things, because when I think of balance, I think of a seesaw, right? And if one is heavier than the other person's going to fall, right? So balance creates that pressure of like keeping things like in a certain way such that things don't crash. Whereas harmony resonates more with me because it's the thought of how can all these things that I have going on exist in a way that doesn't crush me, right? And so it's the top of that is grace, giving myself grace, asking people to give me grace, right?
Yeah.
Asking for what I need, and not only asking for what I need, but asking for grace and going, hey, and letting my partner know I have this, and this going on. If I seem stressed or cranky, please give me grace. Or even asking my kids, like mommy has a rough week ahead, so please, help out where you can, that kind of thing. And so, but even more importantly, giving myself permission to put down the things that, number one, are not mandatory, right? That's like, look at what is not mandatory, put those things down, give myself permission to let it go, and give myself permission to define mandatory as broad or narrow as I want it to be. So for I gave this example to someone the other day. My mom went to Nigeria, for example, and she's coming to the airport and she needs me to pick her up from Dulles. Dulles is like an hour and a half more with traffic. Would it be lovely if I could pick her up from the airport? Absolutely. Can I send an Uber? Yes, I can. Right. And so giving myself permission to say, Mom, I'm going to call. I love you. I can't wait to see you over the weekend, but I'm going to call you an Uber, right? And so old Bunmi would have been like, oh, I'm going to call your mom an Uber, but like, so using the resources, the tools that you have to serve you, right? Use even your job your job is there to serve you, and making, to the extent that you can, your work life bend to your home life versus the other way around, right? I don't have to, but I go into the office, a couple of days a week, when I look at my schedule and go like, okay, I got to pick up the kids, I got to be in that part of town. That's the day I'm going into the office, versus twisting myself to fit this thing. No, I will fit the things and twist them to fit me and my life, and doing that unapologetically, right? And so it's, when I think about harmony, it's you're the juggler, right? And so you control the balls, right? And the balls don't control you, And so that's been my approach. Now, as far as how I juggle all the things, this is again where I want to share that social media gives you one-dimensional glimpse of what's going on in someone's life.
Yep.
People see I have this book coming out. Oh my God, when did you have time to write a book? And that, girl, I wrote that book in 2017. We're like in 2023. Like publishing is years long process.
Right.
Like I didn't write it, get an editor, get an illustrator, all that in like a month. That took like, I think I got the book deal in 2020 or 2021. I can't remember. I wrote the book in 2017. Right. So you don't see all the things that had happened. So it looks like I'm juggling all these things. Right. And in addition to that, so I just use that as one example. Right. And, so for example, I have a deadline. I'm working on a novel and I have a deadline. Well, and it's a deadline that I created for myself, And I asked my agent to hold me accountable to a words limit. Guess what? I haven't written any words in October. I barely wrote anything in September. And so it's given myself grace. When I've set these goals for myself, I am in control. I have the power to move the goalpost. Just because I set this goal doesn't mean I don't have the power to move it. So I can have some breathing space and some breathing room. And so that's kind of how I try to maintain harmony, recognizing that I have the power to put things down, pick them up, say no, and it's also this notion of it's gone. It was there, but it's gone. So
Well, oh, I would love to know, and this is actually not me, but a lot of people I know, what would you say to all the people pleasers out there who
Mm,
really struggle with the idea of everything you just said, of like flipping that sort of conditioned understanding of how work works and how people work, to like flipping it on its head entirely? What would you say to those people who are like, how could I not pick my mom up from the airport? I mean, send me an Uber
yeah.
every time, by the way. Like, I hate people picking me up at the airport. Like, it's
That
great.
does seem very stressful, I
It's
will
just too
say.
much for me. I like the little dude with the card. It's great.
Yeah.
So what would you say to those people? Like, what, not to put you
I
on the
think,
spot.
yeah, no, that's okay. I think you have to think about what your intention is.
Mm,
That, for me, that's what it is that steers me true north. What is your intention? Your intention, let's really, really be clear. If your intention is to get your mother a ride, to get her home, an Uber can do that. Is your intention to support your mom in this time? An Uber can do that, right? If it's your intention to see your mom and spend time with your mom, and that's really, really important to you, then you make the sacrifices that you need to make so you can go pick up your mom and see her at the airport, right? However, if it's your intention to spend time with your mom in a meaningful manner, you can do that over the weekend, right? And so it's being clear what your intention is and then arranging things to meet that intention. Because a lot of times, picking up your mom from the airport is about your ego, right? It's about,
yes.
look at
Yes.
me. I am so busy and I have the kids and I have work and I put all of that stuff on hold to come pick you up from the airport.
Yep.
That's not about getting your mom from the airport to your house. That's about you showing that you're the good daughter because the brother couldn't pick him and that person couldn't pick it. So I sacrificed to come pick you up from the airport. So
Yeah.
being clear about your intent, and that's just one example, right? Be clear about what your intention is. And I know we focus on that example, but it's also recognizing, and I know this sounds so cliche and it's people talk about it all the time, you cannot feed people from an empty cup. You just can't. And the only person who's going to fill you is you.
Yeah.
And if you don't fill you, you start looking at other people to fill you, and then you will inevitably be disappointed. And then that impacts your relationship with that person. It's just an unfair expectation on someone outside of yourself to fill you up. It's not fair to the other person. And so if you love them, you wouldn't even put that expectation on them, right? And so recognizing I need to fill me. And if I get up and drive to Dulles, drive my mom home, and mom, I love you.
Sorry, that was a terrible example. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's okay. But if I do all that, by the time I get home, I'm going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Well,
be exhausted.
you also may resent your mom, and you don't want to resent your mom, and you may have feelings that you don't actually resent your mom, but you resent
Yeah,
your mom. And I
right.
think
Yeah.
so often we talk about how there's so little we can control
Mhm.
in our lives, but you have given us a lengthy list of things that we can control: our reactions, how we treat
Mhm.
ourselves, what we choose to do with our time, how we choose to see work, how we choose to have work and our home interact. Even if work has to have X, Y, and Z happen. Home has to have X, Y, and Z happen. How we prioritize them, and not just in how do we prioritize them in an emergency? Because I think most people are like, the kids come first in an emergency, but how, the dog comes first in an emergency. How do we prioritize them in our daily week, in our life? Like how often, like you said, okay, I need to be at work 3 days a week or 2 days a week. I need to be in the office, but it doesn't actually matter if they change and these 2 days are better for me. So that's just what I'm going to tell people. These are the 2 days I will give you notice. You'll know ahead of time. These are the 2 days that I'm in the office, because these are these are the 2 days that I'm in your office because it works for me. And so you have given us, like, I'm going to come back and listen to this episode and like break down all these things that we can control, because it truly is so many things we can control. That is our reactions. That's how we prioritize things, all of the grace that we choose to give ourselves, the grace that we ask from other people, that I think can help people maybe feel more empowered when we're often feeling, especially this time of year, right? So if you're listening to this and you're listening to it as you're driving to your family, or maybe you're out for a walk on Thanksgiving morning because you need a break already, and it's just Thanksgiving morning, guys, like buckle up. There's a lot of family time in the next month. And even if this isn't the time of year where your big family religious holidays take place, it's still often a lot of family time because of school breaks. So family time, school time, event time, and it's a lot. And I will say yesterday, we have been so much with sports. So like as of yesterday, the Trader Joe's little house that we always put together had not been put together yet. We had not done our jack-o'-lantern yet. Like so much had not been done. And I was like, kind of, we finally had a half day and we had no practices. They'd all been canceled for Halloween, but it wasn't time to go trick-or-treating yet. And I'm like, what are we going to do? Like, let's do this. Let's do this. And finally I went to my kids and I was like, do you care about doing a jack-o'-lantern? And my 9-year-old was like, no. And I was like, yeah, but you never care, right? And he's like, yeah, I never care. I was like, okay, cool. So you're out of this conversation because you have never cared. And I said to my 12-year-old, and he goes, no, I don't think I do. He goes, that's weird, because normally I always really want to, but I just don't care this year. And then I said, okay. And then it hit me that I cared. Not so much about the jack-o'-lantern, but I wanted to roast the pumpkin seeds at the end. And so, I made a kind of a quick and dirty jack-o'-lantern that my children have now said is pretty awful and looks like it has buck teeth, because I'm not that artistic when it comes to a pumpkin. And but we can figure out like where are the priorities. And I was so proud of myself to go like, wait a minute, does anyone actually care about doing this? Because if no one else does, then how about I stop harassing you about it? And I can just do it myself. And like, we'll all be happy. I can just put a podcast on and like carve this pumpkin and we'll all be happier people. So if you want to, I encourage anyone listening to like rewind this and back it up and listen to all the things that Bunmi just listed that you can control, and think about how that can change how the next month goes of your life, but also how you plan out your 2024, right? That's the next year. Yeah, that's the next one.
Yeah.
2024, because I think on one hand, it's very healthy to say there's so much not in my control. And, and I'm not trying to change other people. I'm not trying to like move the earth in a way that I can't. But on the other hand, there's so much you can control. But it's about you.
Yeah, for sure.
And remember to give yourself grace.
Yes.
Remember it. And, I think the other thing too is a lot of times we're so worried about making the right decision, and doing the right thing. Like, okay, just an example, you celebrate Thanksgiving at this family member's house all the time. That's what we always do. Okay, so maybe this year you don't want to. That's okay. Is there a potential for that to cause drama, for it to be the wrong decision? Yeah, there's always that potential. If you make a wrong decision, that's okay. Like, it's not, will it cause some drama? Yes. Like, but is that in the moment when you made the decision, was that the best decision for you? Yes. Then it's okay. Right. And so I think, just that pressure to, I'm not saying do the wrong thing, but I know for me as a good girl, right? Always wanting to do the right thing and that, make sure and yeah, but sometimes the right thing, according to everyone else in society, doesn't serve me. It's the right thing, but is it right for me? And giving yourself permission to choose you, even though it may be interpreted as selfish. Well, if you're drowning, like,
Right.
yeah, it's okay to be selfish if you're drowning. Like, choose you, and that's okay. And so, I want to share because when I do this talks or things, I try to hope that people can walk away with like specific action items and things that are tangible that they can put into effect immediately. And I want to share something that I've been using for my youngest is 12 years old. So yeah, about 12 years now, because when he was born, I had a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a baby, and I was drowning. Hey, I was like, it was a lot, So what I started doing when trying to make a decision, the first thing I ask myself is this optional, this thing that I want to do? Is it mandatory or is it optional? And we talked a little bit about it in the context of the airport.
Right.
And then if I decide that it's optional, then I go, okay, well, do I want to do this optional thing? And if I don't, I don't, period. That's it. And I don't have to explain to anyone unless there's a need to why I don't. Yeah, I can explain if I want, but do I have to explain? Not really. So, and I can tell you that that's not an easy thing to do,
Yeah.
but it takes practice. And now it just helps you establish boundaries. It's just easy. It helps your decision making easier until you get to a point where you can be more nuanced about that decision making. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice. And what I hope people take away from that, amongst a whole host of things, is that it takes practice, right? Like you have to work at it. You have to try it out and figure out your style of doing something or setting a boundary or making these kinds of decisions. You have to actually, put in quite a bit of effort to figure it out. But it is worth it in the end, because then you're living like you've said, Bunmi, a much more intentional and thoughtful life and headed towards your purpose. We have kept you for quite a long time.
And we could keep talking.
Yeah, we could go for hours, I suspect. But we do need to wrap up. So Tova, should we do some quick response questions?
Yeah, they're always fun.
And who's up today? Am I doing just the questions?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
All right. Bunmi, I don't know if you remember, but we do quick response questions.
Okay.
Quick response questions at the end. And so I'm gonna ask you 5 questions and you just tell us whatever pops into your head as a quick response, and people will get to know you a little bit better, I think. So our first question is, what do you do when you first get up in the morning?
What do I do when I first get up in the morning? Oh my gosh, it depends on the morning. Sometimes I'll read my devotional, Jesus Calling. I'll do that. Sometimes I do check my phone. I do that. Yeah, I think those 2 things are what I do when I first get up, and hopefully I can start doing more of one thing than the other.
That's all right. It's all right. All right. Question number 2. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, this is hard. So I always say When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, I love that.
love that movie because the dialogue, the writing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see
that's a
that.
good one. Question number 3. What is on your nightstand right now?
Ooh, what is on my nightstand? So I do have Jesus Calling. That's on my nightstand. I have uh Taking the Leap by Pima Children.
Mm-hmm.
That is easily, I probably mentioned that at the last time I was here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I also have, those are the two that I can remember. Oh, I have this book that my friend Shabnam Khan wrote. The Jinn lives 1,000 years or 100 years or something like that. That I just started reading.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, question number 4. Who is at the top of your musical playlist right now?
Ooh, you know what? Elevation Worship. I don't know if you know that group. It's a gospel group, only because I was jamming to it this morning. So yeah, Elevation Worship.
Fantastic. All right, and our last sort of quick response question is, what is the best piece of advice you've received and who gave it to you?
Ooh, my mom. My mom said, what did she say? She said, well, she's okay. I have two, but I'll share this one very quickly. When I was given, like, just in one of my relatives, and I think I was giving her advice and just trying to, in my own way, this was all my ego, in my own way, helping her, guide her. And I was, talking to my mom, and I guess probably complaining a little bit about that person's not taking my advice or is not, and my mom was like, just hush, I don't even want to hear it. If you're going to help someone, help someone. If you're not, don't, right? But don't ever let your ego get in the way of your blessing, right?
Mm.
And so that's probably one of those pieces of it. And he was like, wham, hit me in the face, like, just be careful about the words that you use and how you're talking about people in the name of helping them,
Sure.
because that's all your ego. And if you're helping someone or giving to someone, the blessing is in the giving, you know. And if you're da 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 da, that's your ego getting in the way of that blessing. So that's one that I hold very close to my heart.
I really like that. Don't I might have to write that down and put that in my office somewhere because that's
Yeah.
very good advice. So thank you so much for joining us
Yeah.
again. I'm sure we're gonna ask you back because we love having you.
I'm
Um,
happy to come. And oh, my book comes
yes,
out
so
in
that's
Yes,
March.
exactly.
tell
So
tell
where
us
do
all the
people
information.
go? Like, how do people pre-order and where do people learn about your book? Where can they go to do all of these things?
Yes, so you can learn about it all on my website, bunmiemenanjo.com. But the name of the book is I'll See You in Ijebu. It's a picture book, and it's one that I'm incredibly proud of, published by Barefoot Books to be released March 2024. Available everywhere books are sold. But if you go to my website, you can join the newsletter. My newsletter, where when you join my newsletter, you get a copy of my jollof rice recipe, my family jollof rice recipe. So there is my gift to you.
Fantastic.
But you join the newsletter, you get all the details about book tour. I'm going to be in New Jersey.
Good.
So you get details about the book tour and all the exciting things happening about the book.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. We are so excited for you. We're so
Thank
happy you
you.
were here today. We will share all of that information that Bunmi just shared with you guys in our show notes and in our social media so you can find it. And hopefully everyone is having a wonderful holiday season. And we will be back next week with more on how is your heart. So maybe this week have a think about how you would like to answer that question going forward. Until then, everyone, we will see you all very soon.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.